Yo, what's going on, guys? Mush back at it with another video, and after the years and years of me just glazing Valve and Steam, I guess it is time for me to cover a story that has people very, very upset. I think, and I always say this whenever I talk about the specific stories about games like Anthem getting shut down, the Nintendo and Palworld lawsuit, etc., that in a vacuum, I don't think there are a ton of people that are upset about these various NSFW games that got pulled from the Steam store recently. However, what I think people are upset about is the consequential ramifications. Now, Steam pulling a lot of these games because of payment processors is going to have these consequences for games in the future. So as noted on Gaming on Linux, Valve have added a new rule to the onboarding guide for game developers. Nothing that payment processors get a say in what stays on Steam. Recently, a number of people noticed and posted across various Reddits that PayPal has been unavailable for days, so it's possible that this is all coming from PayPal, but nothing is known as far as why these games got pulled. However, on Steamworks, the new rule is noted under the What You Shouldn't Publish on Steam heading, noting content that may violate the rules and standards set forth by Steam's payment processors and related card networks and banks or internet network providers, in particular certain kinds of adult-only content. Now, if you have been living under a rock, Steam is absolutely inundated with a lot of NSFW games. I swear it is insane how many NSFW games are released, and some of the titles to these NSFW games, honestly, I get a little bit of a kick out of them as far as how insane these games are, and I'm sure there are people buying them. You know, I don't think it's a coincidence that Steam added a feature where you can make your games private. Nobody gotta know what I gotta be playing, you know? And nobody gotta know what you gotta be playing. You gotta be playing either. If you want a game that's set to private in your Steam library, you go for it. And clearly, there's a market for these games, and sometimes you're just browsing the Steam store and you might be feeling a certain kind of way, and then you end up buying one of these said games, and who knows, maybe you leave it running for 2 hours, that once you're of clear mind, you can't get that refund either. I don't know, but clearly, there is money to be made. And again, I have no problem with the extent of NSFW games because nobody's making you buy these games. Like, whatever. I say, like, there definitely needs to be some sort of quality control, although I think there are people that would argue, screw the quality control, let Steam just be a free-for-all and let whatever games, viruses aside, viruses, malware aside, just let it be a free-for-all and let whatever game come to Steam. I do think there has to be some sort of checks within reason. Like, sometimes some of this nonsense that comes onto Steam, and even on the PlayStation Store as well, the PlayStation Store is inundated with AI slop these days. Like, it is insane. So, I don't know. I feel like we have to do something as far as that's concerned. However, talking about the censorship, here's the issue you get into, and again, it is the consequential ramifications that this could have in the future. A lot of games have NSFW content in them. It's not like it is just these sex games that have NSFW content. Look at a game like Cyberpunk or the CDPR games. There's a lot of nudity in those games. Or look at, various visual novels that come out on Steam that are, a lot of them have to get censored, but a lot of them have sexual content in them that you could understand how a payment processor would be like, hey, why are you selling this game? And is that going to lead to that game being censored? Is that going to lead to publishers just censoring their games outright, being like, hey, we don't even want to deal with the potential headache that this could have in releasing the game on Steam, where then we get our game pulled from Steam and then we have to censor our game. Let's just censor it right off the rip. And you could understand why that would limit your artistic vision for a game. Again, this is talking about the ramifications this could have outside of just interactive sex getting pulled from Steam. Look, I don't think a ton of people, and maybe this is me doing a disservice to interactive sex and Sex Village and, these games getting pulled, but I don't think a lot of my viewers are like, oh my god, what am I gonna do? These games got pulled. We're talking about Limbo and Inside getting potentially pulled. I think a lot of my viewers care about those games getting pulled from the Steam store. I don't think they care about a lot of these games in a vacuum getting pulled, but that is the issue that I feel like a lot of people have whenever they talk about any of these stories, like Anthem shutting down or, things like the lawsuit. It's not about just what's going on in the vacuum. It's about the ramifications it can have to gaming as a whole, and this is something that absolutely could have ramifications. And the crazy thing is, it kind of just happened overnight. It's not something that, we had heard about that was happening. Steam put out a post or anything like that. It kind of just got stealthily added into the Steamworks section, and now you're seeing all of these games get pulled. Now, obviously, I don't think a CDPR or some major publishers are going to have issues. At the end of the day, I think those games are going to come out on Steam, and I think there's not that big of an issue with NSFW content in video games. There's a lot of games with NSFW content, but I think there is a really bad outlook on just censorship in gaming in general, especially when we covered the Ready or Not story. That story, I mean, that game is really under fire. Ultimately, will that have significant consequences for that game? I don't know, but the fact that that game got censored to lead into that game getting released into consoles and PC players were kind of screwed, I find that issue to be even more whack, because that was a game that was literally sold to people and then the game itself was altered. In the case of these games are getting pulled, and I do imagine that people that bought these games are going to be able to continue downloading them. Again, I couldn't tell you guys, if I could still download Interactive Sex. Unfortunately, that game is not in my library, but nonetheless, you should still be able to download the games. But what does that mean for other games coming to Steam? And I do question, visual novels. A lot of those games have sexual content in them, and they're not published by the CDPRs of the world. They're not published by these publishers with a gigantic resources behind them. In the case of visual novels, you're talking about a lot of smaller publishers, and this could just be a headache. It could be something where you look at a GOG, and I know GOG has published some games, but this isn't a Valve decision, you guys. You got to remember that. This is more so them playing ball with the payment processors, and you don't want to negate payment processors as an option for purchase. You know how much money they'd lose out on if PayPal was limited from being used as a purchase option on Steam? They'd be losing out on a lot of money, where Valve right now sees the benefit of, hey, we'll play ball, we'll delist these games from Steam, we'll make sure that some of these games don't end up on Steam. But what is the barometer? What is some of these games? What is the measurement? What is the criteria? Because there's a lot of games that are compelling games with nudity. Is it the games that are just centered entirely around nudity and degenerate games, or perceived degenerate games? I don't know. No, we don't have clarity on that, which that is a major issue. And on top of that, when you have a situation like that, there needs to be a level of clarity and transparency for the developers so they know what they can do and what they can't do. And in that case, are you going to say, hey, don't read the payment processor's FAQ or their terms of services? Let's be honest, nobody's going to do that. And how the payment processors gauge that, nobody knows. And how did this even come to fruition? The payment processor, like a PayPal or whatever, a bank, reach out to Valve and be like, hey, we see these games on your storefront, and now they have to play ball with them? I don't know. We don't know exactly how this story transpired, just that these games are getting delisted and this change has been made. But that'll do it for me. Curious to hear what you guys think. I'm sure a lot of you guys are incredibly upset about this, especially, again, I think most of you guys are capable of utilizing at least a single brain cell to realize it's not just about the games getting delisted here. It's the consequential ramifications that this could have for future games getting released on Steam. And that's ultimately what all of these stories, to me, should be looked at like with all the Stop Killing Games stories, like with any lawsuits, everything like that, and just stories in the world, not just in particular to gaming, but how can a story have ramifications to the greater world of whatever medium it's covering, movies, television, politics even, and I ain't getting into that. But that'll do it for me. Let me know all of your thoughts in the comment section down below. As always, thanks for watching, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Peace out. Hey, what's going on, guys? Mush here again. Hope you enjoyed the video. As you guys might know, YouTube's notification system is sometimes a little bit wonky, even if you're subscribed to the channel. Maybe you're not abundantly aware that I uploaded a video. To remedy that situation, make sure you hit the bell notification button. This way, whenever I upload a new video, and I try to upload as consistently as possible, you will be notified directly of the upload, and you can watch it as soon as it goes live. I would really appreciate if you guys hit that button so you can stay up to date with all of the content I'm posting. But as always, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.